Have you ever wondered if you're getting enough iodine, especially on a carnivore diet, or even why iodine matters at all? Well, in this episode, we are going to be diving into the importance of iodine, why many people are deficient, and what you can do about it, especially if you're following a carnivore diet. Spoiler alert, it's more important than you think. So stick around and watch the whole video. Iodine is one of those minerals that we don't often think about, but it plays a critical role in maintaining thyroid health, regulating metabolism, and supporting brain function. Yet iodine deficiency is incredibly common worldwide, even in developed countries like Australia, where I live. But how does iodine fit into a carnivore diet? Do you need to worry about supplementation? And why is everybody talking about it? Well, let's break it down. First off, I want to talk about why iodine is important. Iodine is an essential mineral for the production of thyroid hormones, which control several important functions I'm sure you know, but these include metabolism, heart rate, and body temperature. If you don't get enough iodine, your thyroid has a harder time functioning, potentially leading to issues like hypothyroidism, fatigue, weight gain, and even cognitive issues. In fact, iodine deficiency is actually one of the most preventable causes of intellectual disability worldwide. On a carnivore diet, your main source of iodine is food like dairy, eggs, and seafood, but these might be very limited depending on how strict you are with your choices. If you're not eating iodine-rich foods like fish, like cod, tuna, the seafood, and dairy, you might fall short on your iodine intake. Now, often the carnivore diet excludes these kinds of things, and also iodized table salt. A lot of people have concerns around that, which leaves a very big gap in this potential mineral, giving a potential deficiency. Why is iodine deficiency so common, though? Well, several factors have been attributed to a global rise in iodine deficiencies, not just people on the carnivore diet. The depletion of iodine in soil, reduced salt intake due to concerns around hypertension, and the fact that many diets rely heavily on processed foods, which aren't typically fortified with iodine, all play a role. But the problem is particularly concerning for people on a carnivore diet because iodine-rich food sources such as seaweed and iodized table salt are often not consumed, even dairy and things like seafood. This creates a perfect storm for deficiency, especially if you're getting your iodine from animal sources like seafood. Let's be real, unless you're eating shellfish every day, you're probably not hitting those iodine targets naturally. I want to talk now a little bit about the role of the thyroid and iodine. The thyroid gland needs iodine to produce thyroxine, which is T4, and triiodithyronine, which is T3 hormones. These are vital for metabolic processes. Without enough iodine, your thyroid can't produce these hormones properly, leading to a condition called hypothyroidism. And this is where your problems can start. Weight gain, fatigue, tiredness, feeling cold all the time, even mental health issues like depression. As it gets more advanced, you may develop a goiter, which is this swelling in your neck, due to the lack of iodine. Thyroid issues can be a bigger concern for people on low carbohydrate diet, especially the carnivore diet, particularly if they may be at risk already because of genetic or environmental factors. So this makes iodine a critical mineral to monitor. How much iodine do you need though? Well, the recommended daily intake of iodine for adults is about 150 to 200 micrograms, depending on your age, sex, state of life, pregnancy, breastfeeding, for example. The rates can go up. But how do you get that from your diet if you're sticking to an animal-based diet or carnivore diet? Well, seafood and dairy are really excellent sources. For example, one serving of cod can give about 99 micrograms of iodine, which is almost 2/3 of the recommended daily intake. Eggs contain smaller amounts, around 25 micrograms per egg, but it's not a lot, but every little helps. Milk is quite a common source of iodine as well, but this is very often excluded on the carnivore diet, depending on who you listen to. Seafood also is a very good source, but again, tends to not be very high. Eggs may be your best bet on the carnivore diet, but around 25 micrograms per egg, you're talking about 10 to 12 eggs per day to get enough of your iodine intake. Now, some people may do that. The other day, I ate 12 eggs for breakfast, but as a routine, I generally eat about 4 to 6 eggs. It's a decent amount of iodine, but probably still deficient. So I guess the question is, should you supplement? Do you need to supplement? Well, if you're wondering whether you should supplement or not, the answer really does depend on how your diet is structured. If your diet is more of a kind of quote unquote ketovore, like myself, which includes seafood and dairy, you're probably okay. But if you're pretty strict carnivore, avoiding seafood, maybe eggs even, and dairy, you're at much greater risk of iodine deficiency. A simple solution is iodized table salt. This is pretty common, but there's a catch. A lot of people on the carnivore diet do not like using iodized table salt because of the risk of microplastics. They prefer salts like pink Himalayan salt or Redmond salt, but these are not very high in iodine because they're not fortified. This can make it very hard to get iodine-rich foods into your diet if you're on a strict carnivore diet, which is probably why so many people need to supplement. Speaking of supplementation, what is a good idea to do? Well, people use things like Lugol's iodine drops. Of course, there's others as well. I'll put a link in the episode description to one I might recommend. You have to be quite careful though with iodine. I have seen some people having real issues with even a very small level of iodine supplementation. I was watching a video the other day from Kelly Hogan. Of course, she's fairly well known in this carnivore space. And she had a client talking about taking 50 drops, I think it was 20 drops a day, sorry, of 5% iodine. That's enormous dosing. I think she said it was equivalent to 50 milligrams. I'd have to double check that. But that's insane. That amount of iodine, this person is really setting themselves up for a really big problem. I've seen people flipping into overt hyperthyroidism, that's overactive thyroid, with just a couple of drops a day. So you really do need to be careful. My recommendation before you think about supplementation is obviously try and nail down your diet first and get some of those iodine-rich foods into your diet, like seafood. I'm a huge fan of prawns. I do like the occasional bit of fish. I don't eat much cod. We don't really get it over here in Australia, particularly in England. We do get it a fair bit there. But I also drink quite a lot of milk as well, which I think is really, really useful for us. So this is how I get my iodine, and of course, eggs. If you're not getting it on your diet though, or you're worried about deficiency, the next thing is to get some tests done. Now, here in Australia, we can't do a blood test for iodine. I don't know if you can in the rest of the world, but a urine test for iodine can give you those results. And you should see the doctor, get an idea of your urine iodine levels, or whether or not you might need to supplement. Of course, the other thing is to get your thyroid checked as well. I would recommend getting TSH, T3 and T4 done. I don't routinely recommend reverse T3. I don't think it's overly useful, but of course you can get that as well. Just be careful if you are going to think about supplementing. You can flip yourself into overt hypothyroidism, and you can also actually cause hypothyroidism with too much iodine as well. I know it sounds crazy, but that is actually possible. So that's my little summary about iodine. Iodine is a crucial mineral, even more so, I think, if you're following a very strict carnivore diet. It is something that you'll probably need to worry about. Always pay attention to symptoms of anything, but in this case, of course, we're talking about thyroid problems. So symptoms of hypothyroidism, as I said, include things like unexplained fatigue, weight gain, usually feeling cold, feeling miserable, feeling depressed, feeling agitated. You might get problems with your skin or hair loss, for example. If you want to learn more about optimizing on a carnivore diet and ensuring you're meeting your nutrient goals, head over to themeatmedic.com, where we dive into topics like this in much more detail and you can get extra support. Make sure you subscribe at themeatmedic.com for the gold and silver packages so that you guys can get that live Q&A with me every week to answer questions just like this. Otherwise, take care, guys. I'll see you in the next episode.